You want to sit in the middle?
I can.
We don't know. We don't have any minutes. Oh. Yes, we do. Okay, we are live.
Okay, so
Did you guys get the chance to see the minutes for walk us through? They weren't attached to the agenda, but I pulled them.
Here she is.
All right.
Well, good. You got the job done. Good morning.
Good morning. Copies of
Yeah,
those.
we need
y'all?
concert, but
good.
I was hoping it was all the people, they were playing pickleball, and that's all the cars were out there. It's not here.
It's, Jennifer, it is 9:01 and we have already started. We're
Oh,
live.
my apologies.
It's good. Hi. We're live.
Thank you for telling me that. I'm sorry. How is everyone? I'm gonna say it again. How is everyone?
Very well.
Good. Have y'all started, or? Okay. As soon as Miss Tammy comes back, we will get started on our meeting. How's that?
Sounds great.
And I think we're going through multiple chapters.
4 through 6.
Yes. Who are we missing?
Mel.
Mel.
No. Oh,
He's out of
He's
town.
out.
oh, okay. And Chris.
Chris will not be here because he's got a budget advertisement deadline right now.
Got it.
He's got to do that.
Got it. Okay.
That's it.
Yes.
All right. Tammy, can you do roll call for us, please, so we can bring our meeting to order?
Okay. Miss Ward.
Here.
Ms. Jenkins. Here. Mr. Schmegelsey is absent today. Mr. Elsey.
Here.
Mr. Cox.
Here.
Ms. Logan.
Here.
All right. Before you have the meeting minutes from the last meeting that we held. Has anybody got any questions or changes to the minutes that we need to address? Can I get a motion for them to be approved?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, the minutes have been approved. All right. All right, so we've got section 301. All right, so we're under general administration, article 3, creation of departments. I'm going to breeze through these and we'll do a quick pause, and I'm just going to read them really quick. I did have several people reach out and ask if we could read them, those that are watching online, just because they're not sitting with it in front of them. So I'm going to read it kind of quickly, and hopefully I won't mess up too many words. Creation of departments. The council may establish city departments, offices, or agencies in addition to those created by this charter as it deems necessary, and may establish any position necessary for operation of city services, and may prescribe the duties and functions of all positions, departments, offices, and agencies. Supervision. Except as otherwise provided in this charter by general law, the council will be responsible for designating the position or individual responsible for the supervision and direction of each department, agency, or office of the city.
Okay, I have a question here.
Yes, ma'am.
The administrator hires and fires all the department heads, so how does that jive with this?
Well, just, since we're just having a conversation, I don't think there's anything in this charter that designates the city administrator or his responsibilities. Am I missing something?
No, you are correct. That is something
So
we do
that's
need
something
to
we're gonna
address.
have to address and
Okay.
add.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct. Any other questions? Okay. So we're going to move on. Article 4, financial procedures, fiscal year. The fiscal year of the city shall begin on the first day of October and end the last day of September the following year. I'm going to do 4.2 through 4. On or before the first day of August of each year, or as otherwise required by law, the city clerk or other officer designated by the council shall submit to the council a budget for the ensuing fiscal year. 4.03 Budget. The budget shall provide a complete financial plan of all city funds and activities for the ensuing fiscal year, and except as required by law or this charter shall be in such form as the mayor or other designated officer deems desirable or the council may require. The total of proposed expenditures shall not exceed the total of estimated income. Section 4. Council action on the budget. A. The council shall by ordinance adopt the budget on or before the 30th day of September of each year. If it fails to adopt the budget by this date, the council, by resolution, may direct that the amounts appropriated for current operation for the current fiscal year shall be deemed adopted for the ensuing fiscal year for a period of 30 days, and renewed by resolution each 30 days with all items in it prorated accordingly until such time as the council adopts a budget for the ensuing fiscal year. An ordinance adopting an annual budget shall constitute appropriations of the amounts specified therein as expenditures from the funds indicated. Supplemental appropriations. If during the fiscal year revenues in excess of those estimated in the budget are available for appropriation, the council by ordinance may make supplemental appropriations for the year up to the amount of such excess. Reduction of appropriations. If at any time during the fiscal year it appears probable to the clerk that the revenues available will be insufficient to meet the amount appropriated, this shall be reported to the council without delay, indicating the estimated amount of the deficit, any remedial action taken by him or her, with recommendations as to any other steps to be taken. The council shall then take such further action as it deems necessary to prevent or minimize any deficit, and for that purpose it may, by ordinance, reduce one or more appropriations. Limitations. Effective date. No appropriation for debt service may be reduced or transferred, and no appropriation may be reduced below any amount required by law to be appropriated or by more than the amount of the unencumbered balance thereof. The supplemental and emergency appropriations and reduction or transfer of appropriations authorized by this section may be made effective immediately upon adoption. The council, in accordance with general law, shall establish procedures, rules, and regulations for formulation, hearings, public notice, amendments, revisions, adoptions, and administration of the budget. That was 4.01 through 4.04. Any comments?
May I speak?
Yes, please.
I just want to, I know the clerk is in here quite a bit as far as.
I noticed that too.
So, they split the duties between the city clerk and accountant. Now that, we had a part-time accountant, but now we are looking for a full-time accountant. So, just want you to be aware that the city clerk does not have any financial responsibilities.
Okay, so
That's a good
now,
point.
that's thank you, Tammy, for pointing that out, but I did notice that as well. So do we want to consider these going under the city administrator's position when we review their job responsibilities, or keep it, it should be under the bookkeeping or financial person, so, in my opinion.
Yes, and if the clerk is not responsible, it shouldn't say clerk in the charter.
Correct.
So,
Change
Mr.
it to
Clint,
Financial director.
financial director.
You know, I'm leaning along the lines of leaving that open, let the council decide who's gonna be, as opposed to,
I don't like that idea.
okay,
Well,
I think it needs to be specified in my mind.
There's also the fact that there is still consideration of, no, I'm sorry. Never mind. I was gonna say there's consideration of putting that back together, and they still mention that when they're talking about finding a new person, but then they always say, well, we're not gonna find anybody, so never mind.
Okay.
I will say that since I have been here, the city administrator has been responsible for worked with the city accountant and presented the budget to the council. The city administrator did. After the city accountant and the administrator worked on it together.
And
then the
came to a
administrator-
consensus as what to.
Yes.
Okay. I saw a hand up in the,
Madam Chair, again, following Ms. Brunson's comments, you could insert city administrator as the overall responsible party for presenting the budget as well as the over expenses.
our city administrator is going to be somebody that's here, more than likely here every day, whereas we have worked with remote financial officers, so that would eliminate them from having to be here to present.
Well,
But that is something to consider.
hopefully going forward, I mean, this is just,
I'd like to have somebody physically here.
we're talking about opinions. I think we've all learned that it's better if we can have a face-to-face financial person. The remote thing, we may have gotten by that way, but I think we all want to do more than just get by. You know, if Quinn's the accountant, it'd be nice if she could be at 95% of the meetings.
Right. No, I agree with that.
And there's also the issue that is in a lot of people's minds. We had the separation of the city administrator handle the day-to-day, the city clerk / financial director until just 2 years ago handled the money. And the clerk finance director reported only to the city council. Under this current setup, the staff accountant finance person reports to the city administrator. And that is a huge issue with a lot of people, myself included. So there needs to be
Separation.
some
Yeah.
kind of separation so that the administrator does not have total control.
That's a checkbook.
Exactly.
Well,
So
that gives us
that's
a
an
checks
issue.
and balances, which is definitely something that I've heard in the community they'd like to see a little more of.
Exactly.
So-
And because it was set up previously that strange way, and that we were an anomaly having a clerk / finance director, we need to look at making sure that the person who handles the money reports directly to the council, however we do that. That's-
agree.
I agree with that too. Yeah.
The only other, you have something? The only other note I made here, and maybe this is semantics on my part, and I'll ask for Clint to chime in here, but under supplemental appropriations, the sentence down here where it says, if during the fiscal year, revenues in excess of those estimated in the budget are available for appropriation, the council by ordinance may make supplemental appropriations for the year up to the amount of such excess. Now, the problem I've got with that, and obviously as things go in Mexico Beach, I'm a relative newcomer, but I think maybe the charter should designate, for instance, if there's a 10% excess in revenue, I think what we witnessed in 2018, maybe we should direct the excess to go into some sort of resiliency fund that the council would have discretion over, but under that fund, it should be designated for, a large portion of it for disaster recovery, because we never know when something else is going to happen.
Now, are you talking in addition to the emergency fund, which is set up for that, which we already
Well,
have?
I'm just saying we could designate additional contributions. The way this is worded, and Clint, you tell me, it more or less, let's just say we've got a $5 million budget, and let's say we have an extra $1 million somehow through excess revenue. It would be nice for us to super fund that emergency fund that then can be designated really for any city emergency, maybe there's a fire and one of the city buildings burns, or maybe, you know, the engine blows in a fire truck and we don't have to go into the general fund for those funds.
My understanding of this, and there was an example this last year where the city received funds during the year that they were not expecting and had not budgeted for, and so this gives them the opportunity to.
But that's just an open-ended statement. I mean, the city, and depending on who the five you've got at the council table, could depend on what they can do with that money.
I don't know, to me, it just seems like you're hamstringing your council. I mean,
Okay.
they're the ones who you voted to basically run the show here. I mean, it's tough to get so specific in this charter.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Number one, remember that it says may make appropriations, not required.
They may.
They
So we're
may.
leaving it at their discretion,
That's their discretion as the elected body.
and we think that's appropriate.
Typically, most charters don't tie the hands of the
It
elected.
doesn't, it gives them.
That was just a
leeway to
question,
do
that was
it.
just a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I was just, you know.
But establishing a resiliency fund, though, actually is not, I mean, it's not a bad idea, and it doesn't have to be tied to the charter, but something we may want to, you know.
But in section D, isn't that what it says down here, the supplemental and emergency appropriations and reduction transfer of appropriations authorized by this section may be effective?
Yes, you are correct there. Mhm.
And we already have our emergency fund established.
Okay, we do.
We do.
I remember that saying that.
And
on the
we've already
budget.
got it refunded with $1 million, if I'm not mistaken, don't we, Tim? Do you remember? I think we do since the.
That's, but I think we all know that that's pretty much peanuts, and that's something that we really should
Have a way to
have.
add
We should
to.
really, you know, I guess this is a general discussion about the charter, but it's something that council should look at funding that every year in their budget.
Yes, yes,
Because $1 million, if you have a major problem, is
yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
I don't disagree, but I think it should be council, I think it should be brought up at a meeting
Okay.
and discussed, not necessarily.
It's just a question.
Well, good question. But no changes then? We're
No, I'm good.
we're gonna keep things as.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other comments?
So are you gonna change clerk?
I think that at this time, let's question mark it and come back, circle back to it. I think it definitely needs to be changed. I'm leaning towards possibly city administrator, but I think once we get to the job descriptions, that should be. Any other thoughts on that?
We keep saying administrator, but didn't at the last, didn't we?
Or
say-
finance director, whichever one we decide.
We keep
Yes.
saying administrator, but didn't we talk about a council manager form of government?
We did.
So let's, if we're gonna be consistent.
We did, but I don't know that we actually decided, I think we were just kind of seeing where everybody stood at that time on the council manager.
So the minutes say that it's consensus to recommend a council manager form of government was reached with a 4-to-1 vote.
That is true. So we need to have,
I'm just saying we just need to be consistent in our language.
We
If
do.
we're recommending one thing, then we should be consistent throughout.
we
So
do.
I understand you, Lee. You're saying if we're going to define a position, it should be designated city manager position if we're recommending.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Well, now that you brought that up, then, we're gonna let's have a discussion, because we've had a month off of time, a month off, and I am writing several papers, so I'm in research mode all the time. And I have gone back, and I voted for the city, I voted for the council, but since then, I have been doing some research and a lot of reading. And I have to say, I kind of think we need to stay with the mayor and have a city administrator and mayor council with the administrator. And I know that because, and our expert who's here, you know, I read a paper, I didn't make copies of it, and I will get it to you guys so you can read it. And it was kind of 50-50, and it was a panel of individuals who had held both administrative and manager positions. It was out of North Carolina. And they go through the pros and cons of the two different positions. And in the end, it ultimately ended with, they were still 50-50 on whether or not they would go with a manager position, mayor, council administrator, or a council manager position. But it really gave me some good guidance as to what we have going on here. And the biggest thing I see is the checks and balances and the struggle for power and keeping things where it can be balanced. And there's going to be politics in it no matter which position we decide to go with, administrator or manager. Just, it's stronger in politics with one than the other, from what I read. So I personally, I'd like to change my vote because I raised my hand for the council manager last time. And I think that we would be better off having a mayor council with an administrator going forward. That's my opinion at this time after the research that I have read. Because it seems like, for one, the administrator doesn't have to have the qualifications that a manager has. If we go with a manager's position, they're going to have a lot of control, and it's going to, I think that it's going to end up being, even though we work that way now, I feel like it's going to end up being an issue. And I think having the city council and the administrator position would be better at this time, and work towards having a manager in the future when we are bigger. But that's my opinion. Everybody has one.
So if you change your vote, then it's still a 3-2 vote.
It's still 3-2. Yes, it's still 3-2. I mean, and I mean, I'm just letting you know that that's where I'm leaning at this moment. But that was the whole purpose of having this committee meeting, is for us to all think, talk, research, and have our own thoughts as how we should move
I
forward.
think we're probably gonna have to go through and, we're gonna go through this, summarize it, and we're probably gonna have, people are gonna have evolving views as we go through this.
You are correct.
And then, when we're done, go back over each individual thing, okay?
Right.
This is it. Is this what we wanna do? One last vote. Is this what we wanna do? So right now, we're just working through it, discussing it, getting it, and everybody's gonna probably evolve a little bit as they go through this.
I totally agree with that statement. So with that being said, I would like for us to keep in mind and consider that we write a charter that is leading towards the mayor, council, administrator, and one for the manager. I know it's going to be more work on us, but when we have our workshops, we can get the feedback from the city residents, and they can lean towards one or the other and give them, that's just, I mean, it's just a thought. Since Lee brought that up and is leading us, that's where I've been at this last month since we've been kind of, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it too much? Is it not enough?
I think Clint's right. I think, you know, we go through these, we might kind of,
Maybe at the last meeting, we go through each one, is what are we gonna do?
what are we
What are
going
we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And you know, these are recommendations to the council, but
That's true.
also,
And for the workshops.
if you just remember like state elections, when we have, you know, referendums on our state constitution, if you get too complicated, people, I'm one of them. If it gets too complicated, I'm no. You know what I'm saying? I just go, no, that's my general rule on those amendments.
And I'm like you guys.
Yeah,
I stop and I go get online and I research and I read and I see what it means. I'm like, oh, maybe not, you know.
Well, and a lot of
That's
times,
what we're
very
different for sure.
misleadingly, the title will be exactly the opposite,
Yes.
which actually is in it. And
Yes.
that's how if I have any doubt about it, I just go, no. We don't
don't
want to make this that
Exactly,
confusing.
and that is a huge issue, and this, I see this as the way I write, and most writers who do it professionally do. You write the whole thing straight through, and then you go back and you edit. We need to do that. We need
Okay.
to just go straight through it.
Yes.
Because the first draft is not your finished product.
No, it's not. I agree.
We may have 15 different drafts, who knows? So let's just go straight through it, making all of our notes and all of our different viewpoints on it, and then we can edit.
John,
Yeah, when this referendum comes before the citizens, Will it be voted on, the changes individually, or is it all or none?
See, that's another thing. The way that we're going through here, it's gonna be impossible to have like a little referendum, we're changing one word. Have each one word, it's gonna be tough. It's almost gonna have to be the whole thing. And I'm looking up how we're gonna be able to do that.
Or the other option is we get our list of changes, of all the different changes that we want, and then we choose the most important.
3 or
And
so.
and let me reiterate this. Again, I cannot say this enough times, and Clint just said it. The fewer things we have on that final ballot, the better off. If we have more than 5 and 5 is still too many,
People are
we're
gonna
gonna
check out.
lose them. We're gonna lose all the voters. So there may be a lot of small procedural changes that we see that we want to make, but in the end, it's the top 3 or 4 that we have to put on that ballot. So while we see things that we think ought to be looked at, there's room to do the less important things 5 years down the road at the next charter review. We need to focus on the top 3 or 4. So when it comes to the final draft, we're going to be I hope we're going to toss out a whole lot of this, because while it's all important, some of it's a whole lot more important.
I totally agree with that.
You go
So-
through too much, you'll get nothing.
Yeah, you
Which is what
can't.
we're doing here, and then the workshop will also help us eliminate what we may say is, 5 or 6 top things. They may eliminate it and go, no, these 2 things are what we really want to be focused on and changed. So
When do
I
we
mean,
have, okay, I'm
we haven't-
freaking out.
we have not set any workshops
Okay,
yet.
thank
We
you.
have not done that. At this point in time, we are strictly going, it is us going
Okay.
through and working through.
Thought I'd
You have
freaked
not
out
missed
somewhere and
anything,
missed something.
but that is a part of the process, is
Okay.
we take it to the public, we explain why we have narrowed it down to these changes. And,
Okay.
we can go, okay, these are all what we consider minor. Does anybody think, no?
Yeah,
These are what we
yeah.
have, now we'd like y'all's input in the top 3, or
Okay,
whatever.
okay.
Yes, that is the process.
What
Before
is-
we even take it to the council.
Okay,
Keeping
okay.
in mind, what is it that's the confusion with everybody right now? The goal of this is when we're done, there is no more confusion about who does what, who's in charge of what.
And who reports to
And
who,
who
and
reports
all
to
of that,
who.
yes,
Oh,
that
so
is.
If we can get this written up and it gets passed, we don't have to go through this every time there's a new board elected.
Well, there won't be. This should have been reviewed every 5 years, and it has been many, many years past that since it has been reviewed.
I agree.
And so that's the only reason, and it got brought to light with the current,
Situation and
Exactly.
and it's led to a lot of confusion. The goal of this committee should be to eliminate the
and that's what we're doing. And helping to guide, or let the council know, not guide them, but let them know what the community wants to see happen. I mean, I know we all have varying opinions, and we're all getting fed different thoughts and opinions from people, and so, we're in a tough situation, but we need to make it better, and that's what we're all here to do, and we will. All right, any other comments on that section 4? All right. All right, 4, 5 through 8, public records. Copies of the budget and the capital program as adopted shall be public records and shall be made available to the public in the city clerk's office. 4, 6, lapse of appropriations. Every appropriation except an appropriation for a capital expenditure shall lapse at the close of the fiscal year to the extent that it has not been expended or encumbered. An appropriation for a capital expenditure shall continue in force until the purpose for which it was made has been accomplished or abandoned. Independent audit. The council shall provide for an independent annual audit of all city accounts in accordance with the rules of the Auditor General of Florida, which shall include an annual examination of the financial position, the results of operations, and changes in fund balances of all the city funds for the year. then ended in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, and may provide for such more frequent examinations as it deems necessary. Such examinations shall be made by a certified public accountant or firm, or such accountants having no personal interest, direct or indirect, in the fiscal affairs of the city government or any of its officers. A management letter shall be rendered by the examining auditor setting forth deficiencies, if any, disclosed by his examination and his suggestions for improvements in internal controls. This letter shall be read at the next regularly scheduled council meeting after its receipt. A copy of this letter shall be filed with each copy of the audit report. If the auditor for the state of Florida shall perform such an examination or furnish such a letter, the council may accept them as satisfying the requirements of this section. Establishment of boards and committees. The City Council has the authority to establish such boards and committees and appoint members thereto as may be necessary to meet the provisions of this charter. Any comments, suggestions, changes? Anything from the public? All right. Moving forward. Article 5, nominations and elections. Any person, section 501, electors, any person who is a resident of this city who is qualified as an elector of the state and who registers in the procedural manner prescribed by general law and an ordinance of the city shall be an elector of the city. Nonpartisan elections. All nominations and elections of the office of the City Council shall be conducted on a nonpartisan basis without regard for political party affiliation. No designation or political party affiliation of any nominee shall appear on any campaign literature, nomination petition, or ballot. 3, nominations. Candidates for the office of City Council shall qualify for such office in the manner prescribed in the charter. Section 4, procedures. The council shall prescribe rules and regulations for the conduct of election. What?
Okay.
Sorry, mine was out of order. You're good, mine was out of order.
Okay.
Yeah, there's my missing page
Right,
17.
yeah, sorry. Mine
Yeah.
was just out of order.
That's okay. I heard it from it. Okay. Let's see. Section 5.4. The council shall prescribe rules and regulations for the conduct of elections, including the form of the ballot and the method of listing candidates for city council elections. Any changes?
I have one,
Yes, ma'am.
and it may just need to be updated. 5.02, campaign literature. Should we include digital marketing or social media, or just because rarely people actually mail things anymore? I just didn't know if literature is too broad, if we need to make it involve technology or not. Just
That's
a,
a good question.
It's actually a good thought.
just a note.
That's probably a good idea.
Does Bay County do that? Don't we follow other elections?
I'm not sure, John.
Well, I think the county and state offices do allow for partisan stuff
Yeah, it's our charter that
that eliminates
we
that.
could have it the other way around if we wanted to.
I mean, to me, that's really, frankly, unimportant, the party affiliation. I mean, if Lisa's running, I support Lisa. I don't care if she's an independent or what she is.
Right.
I mean, I personally like the fact that there's no party
Yeah, I do.
affiliation.
I do
For a
too.
small city.
Yes,
And on that vein, I think you bring up a great point. I think social media included in there is a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can't hurt.
It can't hurt it. And we definitely need to keep the town nonpartisan, because as someone who has gone around to doors, I can tell you,
They'll ask that question.
It matters, right?
it matters to a lot of people, but we need to keep it nonpartisan in everything we do here.
And you know, you are a candidate, so when we're having an open discussion here, you have to, as candidate, you're gonna have to address that with voters, you know, individually, but you shouldn't be able to use
use that on your literature and your
Exactly.
yard signs and all that. No, let's keep it as,
I like it nonpartisan.
I do too. I think
yes,
that's
it needs
for-
to be.
for small
Yes,
town.
John. We'll go ahead and open to the public since we have our.
Public one. Going back to the last election, I don't know what qualifies as election literature, and maybe Clint can address this, but there was a sign that was too big by our code. And it had vote for the candidate. Then it was removed and then it was put up on private property, which still could be seen from the roadway and paid for and authorized by the candidate, was covered up, but it still said vote for. Does that make it a political sign? Because our codes cover the size of a political sign. But in my personal opinion, as soon as it says vote for, it becomes political.
I would say that.
Because the former administrator allowed it to happen and said it was private property and it was a private sign. But it still said.
That's
vote
our
for.
code, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a
Code
charter.
violation.
Well, I'm telling you what was said,
Yeah.
and it stayed up till after the election.
Yes, sir.
There's state statutes on that that requires, the language on the bottom sign, paid for by so-and-so, so-and-so.
But
And that
if it's
that
covered
was
up,
originally open,
Right.
and then when the sign was moved, it was covered up with a board, but it still says vote for.
Which is contrary to Florida law.
Okay. So it does make it political in your opinion, sir.
It's definitely political if it says vote for.
yeah.
Well, I'm just telling you what the former administrator allowed to happen. So, do we need language for that, or just revert back to our
Not in-
LCC?
Not in the charter.
Not in the charter.
That would definitely be a planning and zoning question.
only thing that
I would
just
think
comes-
anyway, because
we're
they
talking
cover
about-
all of the LDR and LDC and all those things.
Okay. I just want a clarification, since we were talking about elections and partisanship and.
No, yeah, I absolutely get where you're going with that, but I do believe that would be more of
Okay,
a
good. Thank you.
a zoning issue.
Well, code enforcement,
Code,
frankly.
more code, correct.
It's
So we're in
that-
agreement, we're gonna add something about.
Something along the lines of
Yeah,
social
digital
media or
marketing.
electronic.
Okay.
Yep, I put add social media on mine,
Okay.
because that is very good, with the way things are now.
Now, does that include private sites or?
No, on there,
It's a
so
matter of
if,
candidacy, right?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jennifer, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no,
You
no,
can-
go ahead.
No, I'm saying, I think that's part of the qualifications of being a candidate, right? That we can't, during election, they can't advertise their political party on these things. That's in the nonpartisan
That's
section,
what,
right?
that's what it
Okay.
says.
Yeah.
So all these little,
If
like
it is,
Super Beach Strong and
Those
Citizens
are
and
private.
all the.
Yeah, that's
right,
right.
If
those
I-
are private groups, but if it's your page, that your campaign page,
Got it.
that is the
Yes.
page you
Thank
need to
you.
be careful not to have any
Yes.
partisan
Thank you for the clarification.
information on there. Am I correct in that
Yes.
statement?
I think
Yes.
you are.
Yes.
And in candidate qualifications, right, Lisa, when you
Yes.
fill all that, there's specific guidelines.
Yes, yes. So if I had my page, Lisa Logan for group,
Right.
whatever I ran for, I have
There's specific
very
rules,
specific
right.
about what you can have on it.
Yeah,
So,
Chelsea does a good job.
Yeah.
Any other suggestions or comments? Okay. Reading sections 505 and 56. 505, elections. A regular city election shall be held on the third Tuesday in April following the third Monday of each election year, starting in April of 2005. Each candidate receiving the highest number of votes cast for each group in said election shall be declared elected to office as a member of the city council for the city
Mine
of
says
St.
Where are you?
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm reading, I'm reading from what was online, and I wanted to do this on purpose, because I wasn't able to
It's
have.
different.
Yes, I wanted to see where the differences were, so I can make suggestions. I apologize.
That's all right.
So Quinn, will you please read section A of what you have from the original stated? I'm sorry.
That's okay. A regular city election shall be held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in those years in which an election is necessary. See Schedule page 4. Each candidate receiving the highest number of votes cast for each group in said election shall be declared elected to office as a member of the city council for the city of Mexico Beach.
All right. Is it the first or the third?
It's the first.
It is the first, isn't it?
My copy says third. That was
The one I got here says third.
And Donna Baber gave me this copy, the deal administrator.
Well, this,
I'm reading from what was online, and I want to have it corrected if it needs to be corrected.
okay,
So if this is
what
the-
I've got is with Quinn, and
Yeah.
ours is the,
And I
That's what
thought,
I've got.
Yeah, that's what
in
it
the
was
meeting, we
original.
had established we were going to do this one.
We did, and my husband and I were reading through it at home and hadn't had an opportunity, so I thought, and I should have told y'all at the beginning, I'd like to read this one and y'all tell me differences because I'm making corrections.
Is it the third or the first?
It's the
It's the
first.
first.
It is the first.
Wasn't the last election on the 18th?
It
Yeah.
was.
It was.
That couldn't have been the first.
You're right, it was April 18th.
It's
Yeah.
the-
That was the third Tuesday then.
Yeah. It was not the first because it was like the 18th.
Okay, so we need clarification
It's
on.
whenever the Bay County Supervisor Election
well,
Office.
It's
that has
administrative.
changed,
And
yes.
that's why we've changed.
But now, and since we're into this whole discussion about when the election, as I recall, and I can dig back through my notes, didn't we discuss early on about why municipal elections are in April
Well,
instead
here's,
of?
We did.
here's the problem with it, and I believe Julie called the Supervisor of Elections.
We did.
He said, you can move it wherever you want, but if you take it away from this, you're not getting any help from us. You're,
Right.
you're gonna be doing the whole thing on your own.
We need
So
the
he
polls,
basically
we need
said,
volunteers.
So
you're gonna do it when we do it.
So the Bay County rule is municipal elections are held in April.
Correct.
Yes.
And because there's, I don't know how many municipalities there are. You know, in Port St. Joe, we just did a referendum, we moved ours from April
To November.
to November. But we're, you know, there's
But you're
only
Gulf
one of
County.
us, you know, yeah, we with Hitchcock, but it's not with 13 other municipalities.
Right.
So the
Gulf County.
So the Gulf County Supervisor election, he didn't care whether, it actually made his job easier, he didn't have to worry about it in April. Everything is in November. But over there, we're kinda stuck with the dictator.
Did you pull it up? 'Cause I was gonna pull it up.
So Bay County now dictates it's the third Tuesday or just whenever he arbitrarily sets
I
it?
think it's whatever.
It's a set, no, it's a set date, I just don't know exactly what. He doesn't get to change it every year. It's a
No,
So it
he-
must be,
It's the first Tuesday after the third Monday is the way I read it, in case like it falls on the first or something like
Oh,
that.
I got you.
okay.
I understand what you're.
Okay.
And remember, when this was written, our City of Mexico Beach elections were in December.
So
That
the,
happened until 2005, y'all.
so the online version is more up to date than this version.
Evidently.
Okay, all right. So you guys, put it as the third
Because
Tuesday.
the third Monday, and it's starting in 2005.
Yeah, there you go, see?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It
Okay.
should be, yeah.
So this is correct now, not first. Okay. Okay. Anything else? B, multiple candidates. When more than two persons qualify as candidates for the office of city council for any of the designated groups to be filled, the persons so qualified shall be voted upon at the regular city election to be held as stated herein. The candidate who shall receive the highest number of votes cast for the designated group shall be declared elected.
And I think
We
we've already
discussed
talked.
this
We-
once.
yeah, we-
Yeah, we need to take
We
that
want-
last sentence
Yeah.
out and we need
Want
to
the
hear.
50% plus one.
Plus one.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Or there's a runoff.
Or there's a runoff. Because that's what county and state elections
That's what we do over there.
in St. Joe,
Okay,
There's a runoff, you gotta get 50 plus one.
yeah,
we good?
yeah.
Single candidate. In the event only one person qualifies as a candidate, either for ballot listing or a write-in candidate for a designated group on the city council to be filled at an election, that group shall not be listed on the regular city election ballot, and such candidate shall be declared elected. pretty straightforward right out of the
Yeah,
state.
and
Yeah.
that's how we've done it, so yeah, it works.
Section 5.6, ballots for ordinances and charter amendments. An ordinance or a charter amendment to be voted on by the city shall be presented for voting by ballot title. The ballot title of a measure may differ from its legal title and shall be clear, concise statement describing the substance of the measure without argument or prejudice. Below the ballot immediately, wait a minute, shall appear the following question. Shall the above described ordinance or amendment be adopted? Question mark. Immediately below such question shall appear in the following order the word for and also the word against with a blank square after each for the placing of the symbol of an X to indicate the voter's choice, or with levers opposite for and against if voting machines are used.
Well, there are no levers on voting machines anymore.
And you don't put an X.
Little ovals.
So do we,
The important thing is the question, shall the above described be adopted?
Yeah.
well, on your ballot, that means, you know, they have all that above that question. so.
Yeah.
If you don't fill it in, the computer won't read it. If you do an X.
So do we want to bring it up to date? At least to make that a suggestion?
I think it's very minor. I think it goes back to Clint saying it's just one more thing you're adding on there. I think it's,
I think most people.
if you're a voter, you know what to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would
Well,
just-
you would assume. You would assume.
It's one of those,
You know what
don't
that
use 10
assume.
words when 5 will do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So we're gonna leave it alone?
I
All
think-
right. Any other comments from the public on these sections? All right, sections 6.1 through 6.4. Initiative, referendum, and recall. General authority. Initiative. The qualified voters of the city shall have power, provided that such power shall not extend to the budget or capital program, or any ordinance relating to the appropriation of money, levy of taxes, or salaries of city officers or employees, to propose ordinance to the council. If the council fails to adopt an ordinance so proposed without any change in substance, the voters may adopt or reject it at a city election. Referendum. The qualified voters of the city shall have the power to require reconsideration by the council of any adopted ordinance. And if the city fails to repeal an ordinance so reconsidered, the voters may approve or reject it at a city election. Such power shall not extend to the budget or capital program or any ordinance relating to the appropriation of money, levy of taxes, or salaries of city officers or employees.
This has interested me because it says the voters can have reconsideration of any adopted ordinance. And that's the first I've heard of that. I'm surprised at that and very surprised it has not been used before. As a matter of fact, I wrote a note to myself. It says, since no limit is set, can voters reappeal sugar sands? So that's just something that I had never heard of, that it says any adopted ordinance. Man, that opens a can of worms.
It's not any, you can't do with taxes, appropriation.
Yeah, well, yeah, but think of all the other ordinances we adopt that are unpopular, and that, I'm just amazed that that's there. Nobody knew about it. Oh, well, I just wanted to make
Leave
that
it comment,
comment.
Lisa.
No. That's all, I just wanted to make that comment.
Any other comments? Section 2, commencement of proceedings, petitioners committee and affidavit. Any 5 qualified voters may commence initiative or referendum proceedings by filing with the city clerk an affidavit stating they will constitute the petitioner's committee and be responsible for circulating the petition and filing it in proper form, stating their names and addresses and specifying the address to which all notices to the committee are to be sent, and setting out in full the proposed initiative ordinance or citing the ordinance sought to be considered. Promptly after the affidavit of the petitioner's committee is filed, the city clerk shall issue the appropriate petition blanks to the petitioner's committee. Six 3 petitions. Number of signatures. Initiative and referendum petitions must be signed by qualified voters of the city, equal in number to at least 25% of the total number of qualified voters registered to vote at the last regular city election. Form and content. All papers of a petition shall be uniform in size and style and shall be assembled as one instrument for filing. Each signature shall be executed in ink or indelible pencil and shall be followed by the address of the person signing. Petitions shall contain or have attached throughout their circulation the full text of the ordinance proposed or sought to be reconsidered. Affidavit or circulator. Each paper of a petition shall be attached to it when filed, an affidavit executed by the circulator thereof, stating that he personally circulated the paper, the number of signatures thereon, that all the signatures were affixed in his presence, and that he knows them to be the genuine signatures of the persons whose names they purport to be, and that each signer had an opportunity before signing to read the full context of the ordinance proposed or sought to be reconsidered. Time for filing referendum petitions. Referendum petitions must be filed within 30 days after adoption by the council of the ordinance sought to be considered. 6.4, procedure after filing. Certificate of clerk amendment. Within 20 days after the petition is filed, the city clerk shall complete a certificate as to its sufficiency, specifying if it is insufficient, the particulars wherein it is defective, and shall promptly send a copy of the certificate to the petitioner's committee by registered mail. Grounds for insufficiency are only those specified in the above section. A petition certified insufficient for lack of the required number of valid signatures may be amended once if the petitioner's committee files a notice of intention to amend it with the clerk within 2 days after receiving the copy of his certificate and files a supplementary petition and additional papers within 10 days after receiving the copy of such certificate. Such supplementary petitions shall comply with the requirements of subsections B and C of the above section, and within 5 days after it is filed, the clerk shall complete a certificate as to the sufficiency of the petition as amended and promptly send a copy of such certificate to the petitioner's committee by registered mail, as in the case of an original petition. If a petition or amended petition is certified sufficient, or if a petition or amended petition is certified insufficient, and the petitioner's committee does not elect to amend or request council review under subsection B of this section within the time required, the clerk shall promptly present his certificate to the council, and the certificate shall be the final determination as to the sufficiency of the petition. Okay.
Can you please read that again?
No.
We need to add a few commas in there.
Well, yeah. Council review. If a petition has been certified insufficient and the petitioner's committee does not file notice of intention to amend it, or if an amended petition has been certified insufficient, the committee may, within 2 days after receiving the copy of such certificate, file a request that is being reviewed by the council. The council shall review the certificate at its next meeting following the filing of such request and approve or disapprove it. And the council's determination shall be a final determination as to the sufficiency of the petition. New petition. A final determination of insufficiency shall not prejudice the filing of a new petition for the same purpose. Costs. The cost of checking the names on the petition against the list of registered voters shall be borne by the petitioner's committee.
Just for an example, in case y'all didn't know, the citizens actually did this back in 2015 for the Leave No Trace.
Leave no trace, yeah.
That was a referendum, and it was done by petition.
Really?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's good to know.
And it was a knockdown drag out.
So the council didn't want
The council did not want to do it.
to leave no trace.
And the people did it.
The
Wow,
people
that's
did
interesting.
it.
Well, thank goodness. Interesting. That shows the power of the people, right?
Yeah,
It was a good move.
yeah. That's really good news. Okay, so we actually got through 5. All right, so this is where we were at the end of our agenda. Any public comments on anything that we've read through today? All right, how are we doing, guys? I know we got a little behind with last month's, all the moving around things, but I think we're back on track now.
We're moving
We meet
through.
next Thursday?
Yes, next Thursday will be our next meeting, again at 9 o'clock.
So given where we are,
Mm-hmm.
when do we think we might be ready for the workshop?
Hopefully by the 1st of November, maybe even a little sooner. I mean, we're moving through this pretty good. The only question I do have, we have Mr. Linderman who started with us, and he was going to be writing the revision. And since he is not volunteering with us at this time, how is that going to work? Do we have notes I mean, I have my notes and you have your notes, but how will that work?
Well, I think
I'm sure
we're gonna go through it one last time.
And you would have to write it in
I guess
legal
I'd
form,
have to write it up.
I'm sure Tim will share his notes.
He did
With-
send some, and I will send them to you guys.
Oh, thank you.
He did what he had, so
Okay.
yes, I do have those.
Perfect. That'll help at least give us an idea, make sure we're all going
I
on the
will
same.
email and I will also do a printed copy.
And obviously the Facebook Live.
Yeah, we can hold the tape.
Yeah. That's always helpful, right?
I do go back and look at. I will also send to Tammy my copy of what I was talking about in North Carolina that I read that kind of gave
I'd
both
like to
sides.
see a copy of that.
This is just one of many. This one just to me really stuck out. And I've even got some things I highlighted on here. So I'll send
That to go along with, I mean, we had Mel and then,
Yes.
our
Our
resident
expert.
expert here that gave their opinion of both forms. So
Right.
having work experience in both, I think is
Yeah.
very valuable.
But I think, and thank you, Lee, for bringing that up. Maybe we need to go back and figure out what form and work towards that, or again, because we are going to be putting this to the citizens, and they are the ultimate deciding factor.
And they need to understand the differences.
Exactly, and that's what the workshop is really for, and so it's to understand, whereas we're all working through it here, and,
We're just looking at where we're at. I mean,
We're almost through it.
yeah. we're
one
doing-
more meeting, we might could get through the whole thing, honestly.
I think
And
so.
then have a meeting to kind of consolidate our thoughts.
And kind of where we're
And
going,
then
where
have the
we're thinking.
workshop, so we may be ready by middle of October.
Okay.
I mean, what do you think, Lee?
What is our final deadline?
I forgot.
November 2nd
Yeah.
was what we were trying to get, the note, or the first
Okay.
council
When
meeting.
do
We
we
wanted
have-
to have
Here
it
we go,
presented the
here we
first
go.
council
When we
meeting.
have to let the council,
Council review is in December and January. Don't we have to
February.
file this by February
Yes.
1st?
February 1st
February
is the
fir-
deadline.
in order to get it
To
on the
get it on
ballot.
the
Yes.
ballot, right?
Right.
But I think our first presentation to the council was November, I think.
And then in January, the council decide what they want to,
Okay, okay.
So we're
and then we
still,
write it up and we get it to the supervisor election.
and we had a
People
couple
vote.
of extra days in there that we had accommodated for, like last month with the meeting. And one last question. If, let's say for instance, Quinn comes across an article, or Lisa comes across an article that she wants us to have ahead of time, and this is the reason why I didn't send this ahead of time to Tim. Did we send it to Tammy and ask her to send it out to the committee?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Because we can't,
That'd be fine.
okay, so I can't send it to
Yeah,
everybody.
you
From
don't
me,
send it
I can't
directly.
originate it,
No.
but I can send it to Tammy and say, hey, can you send this out to everybody for them to review? I found it interesting, or yada, yada, yada. Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm not, stepping out of line, that's all. All right, anything
Motion to
else?
adjourn?
Yep, motion to adjourn.
That was quick.
Second.